continued to mourn as if for the loss of his mother. And every time he would go into his former mother's tent, he would be in pain. He would even take some hair out of his skull because he's saying to himself, lamenting, when will the blessing return to my mother's tent? Yitzchak is waiting for the return of the Eved. It's not an easy time to predict when he's coming back. It's not like the Eved went to the next neighborhood, he's coming back today or tomorrow. The trip is a few weeks going and a few weeks coming back. Can you imagine the anticipation Yitzchak has? Waiting for the response, the answer, yes or no? Is he anticipating? Big time. What is he doing during these weeks? Okay? He's waiting for the Eved to come back. He's doing whatever he has to do on an everyday basis. And halavai, that he can pray to God. Halavai, that he can meet her even on the road to show, I'm interested in you. I admire you. And not just wait at home twiddling his thumbs. Here in Pasuk Samich Bet 62, it says, V'yitzchak ba mibo. He's coming from Be'er, a well, Lachai Roi, that's what it's called. V'yoshe Be'eretz HaNegev. Yitzchak is not living in the Hebron area. Remember, after the Akedah, or some so, Avram went further south in Eretz HaNegev, towards Beersheba. And now it states that he's coming back from a place called Be'er Lachai Roi. Did we see that name before? We did. There was an event that happened there. Who was the event that it happened to? Hagar. Hagar, driven out of the home of Avram, together with her son called Yishmael. Something special happened to her next to the well. A revelation of God. A malach was sent to her. And right before Yishmael dies, water is found for her. The child is revived, and they're told, go back and be afflicted by Avram. This place receives famous knowledge that it's a place where the divine presence is. Who goes to there to pray? We're going to see in a moment that Yitzchak went to a place like this to pray because it's a place of divine presence. And he wants to be in an area on a major road that if the Eved is coming back, I'll be in the intersection area. Why? I want to show affection, love, caring for my future wife. And this, according to this understanding, is happening. Now, either he estimated that they're coming now, either he got Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration from God, but it's clear that Yitzchak is anticipating the return of the Eved of his father, together with his future wife. Yes, sir?
He's in the middle of the country.
The Negev.
They're coming back from the north. Why doesn't Yitzchak go north?
Because that's too big of a place. He can only, I'll give you the answer if you want to hear the answer. That's too big of a place. Go north. Where? But go a major intersection in the Negev area where he's been living. That's where the Eved is going to be coming to.
So they have to.
So they're going to cross in the Eretz HaNegev. And in the Negev, there are a lot of open fields. And it says in Samech Gimel, please follow. Vayetze Yitzchak, he went out. Lasuach basadeh. One meaning, lasuach, of course, comes from the word sicha, to have a discussion. But Chazal learned from here, he went out to pray. And the Talmud says, and I'm quoting, and they prove from Tehillim, sicha refers to prayer, tefillah. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh. When? Lifnot Arav, in the afternoon hours, right before the evening. Can I ask you what he's praying for? No, not to win the lottery ticket. Or yes, to win the lottery ticket. Meaning, the shidduch will be successful. That's his lottery ticket. That's what he's interested in. Now, do you remember how holy Yitzchak is? Do you remember what a spiritual person Yitzchak is? He gave all his trust to God. He went to the Akedah wholeheartedly. He's a very exalted, God-fearing person. And we've talked about that Yitzchak is like passive. He's not the doer like Avraham. He's not the one doing kindness. He is suspending himself. He is stopping himself out of awe, fear of God. And therefore Yitzchak reflects which attribute, obviously? Yirah, fear, pachad, fright. How do you think a person like that, who is brought on Mount Moriah, how does he look when he prays? Can you imagine? First of all, he's out there alone, in the field. You're making a correlation with the breast liver, huh? Is he screaming, Abba? I'm asking you. Maybe. The Midrash says that his hands were spread out, praying to God. He's there alone, praying to God, with his hands spread out. Let me ask you, how many synagogues has Rivkha visited in Aram Naharaim? How many? No? A shtibel maybe? A small synagogue in someone's home? Huh? Yes or no? You know what a shtibel is? You don't know. It's Yiddish for a synagogue inside someone's home. Has she seen synagogues before? Has she watched people pray? She has? No, she hasn't. No, okay. Has she seen people praying to one God? Who knows? Take this under your understanding. She now is getting closer. And what does she see? Let's read it. But he, in his prayer, in the middle of Samach Gimel, Vayisayna Vayar. He lifts up his eyes. And what does he see? V'hine, surprise. Gimalim ba'im. But it's not just gimalim. It could be that he sees 10 camels coming in his direction. And remember, at this moment, what is Yitzchak involved with? He's involved with what? Tefillah. Tefillah. And he's not just, it's a tefillah of a tzaddik. You can imagine how much he's pouring out his soul. His personality is in his tefillah. His talents are in his tefillah. The facial appearance of his father Avram appears on him. When this is seen from a distance, you notice this. If you're on a camel, high up, and you see an individual out in the yonder, praying in such a way, his hands are spread out. Wow. Maybe what does she see on him? Like divine light, maybe. Shekhinah, like the divine presence on him. When she sees that, listen to what I'm saying, she flips. She falls. Pasuk Samech Daled. Vatisa Rivkha Teina, she lifts up her eyes. Vatera et Yitzchak. No, it doesn't say, I am Yitzchak. The Torah is saying that she sees, but she doesn't know it is. But she sees something that causes her fear. She loses her balance. She's in fear. She's in a state of trepidation. And she falls off the Gamal. And then she asks the Eved in Pasuk Samichei, Vatomer la Eved, Mi ha'ish hazeh ha'olech basadeh lekratenu. Who is it? The one that's walking towards us. Apparently started walking because he sees the camels. Vayomer ha'eved. 2 words. Hu Adoni. That's my master. What does she do? Vatikachat sa'ifa titkas. Gentlemen, it was a very accepted practice that when a person is filled up with fear, exalting fear, and someone sees someone so great in the fear of godliness, there's a custom to cover yourself up as much as possible. Not even to look at it. You can't even observe anymore to see such a thing because he's so filled with fear. She never saw such a thing. This episode happening here is not incidental, but the relationship that will develop between Yitzchak and Rivkha will not be like the open relationship that we learn about between Avram and Sarah, or Yaakov and Leah and Rachel. It'll be a relationship of marriage, what we call with distance. Fear will be a major element or attribute in the relationship between the husband and wife. It's represented here by the falling off of her from the Gamal. It's represented by taking a kerchief and covering her face. And this is the meeting of her with this great tzaddik, with this great patriarch. And she sees his tefillah and it's overwhelming for her. So overwhelming. And maybe there's some that explain, the Netziv of Volozhin explains, do you remember later on when Yitzchak is before he's passing away, he thinks it's time to bless his children, and he's ready to give the blessing to who? To Esav. Who uses trickery? Why doesn't she just go over to husband and say, honey, my dear husband, that's not the right thing to do. According to my intuition, the blessing should be given to Yaakov and not Esav. You know why she doesn't say it? Some commentators say, because there's a distance. The relationship between the two the tone has been set right now by the initial meeting. It has such a deep impact on the nefesh, on the soul of Rivkha, that there's not an open discussion between the two. And she has to resort with no other choice to deceit and trick her husband to make sure that Yaakov receives the blessing. Gentlemen, we're continuing for a few more moments. In the beginning of Pasuk Samich Zayin, the last Pasuk of the chapter, we have a difficulty in the language of the Pasuk. I'm reading. Follow, please. It says, Vayivi'ah Yitzchak. He brings her. Ha'ohela Sarah imo. The diktuk, the grammar here, according to regular Torah grammar, it should have stated this. Vayivi'ah Yitzchak ha'ohela. And he brought her into her tent. And then it should state, Ohel Sarah imo. The tent of Sarah, his mother. Because the Torah went away from this rule of grammar, Chazal tried to explain the simple meaning here. Do you know what he did first? Yitzchak brought Rivkha to the Ohel, but it doesn't say which Ohel. And then he saw that his Ohel is the Ohel of his mother. Meaning all the blessings that stopped, that were interrupted with the death of his mother, now have returned by Rivkha coming into his Ohel. And therefore, don't take back that it says on the one hand, Vayivi'ah Yitzchak, and then it says Vayikach et Rivkha. Why does it have to say Vayikach et Rivkha? Huh? Vatihilo leisha. Why does it state that, gentlemen? Huh? So there are those that say, according to halacha, the shlichut done by an eved, according to law, the shlichut done by an eved is not in effect. Engagement really doesn't happen. There's a need for Yitzchak to return and re-engage her. And therefore it says, Vatihi lo leisha. And she became the wife. In other words, what we're seeing here is, he saw in her Sarah, his mother. He saw in her Sarah, his mother. And blessings will now return to the tents of the matriarchs. Wow, what an ending. Now there's happiness. Now there is the marriage. Okay? And what's happening here, we should learn a lot of good things are based out of prayer. Tefillah. We have to learn the power of prayer to come close to Hashem. We have to know there are two ways to connect to God. Torah and Tefillah. Torah is milamala lamata. We're taking divine ideas, information, clauses, laws, mitzvot, and we're analyzing and studying it, but it's divine. It starts from God. Tefillah is the opposite direction. Prayer is milamata lemala. We're using the sparks of our soul. We're using the divine material. Okay, and the fact that God created us in the divine image, we're using the divine part of our being and we're turning to God. When we do that, we're uplifting ourselves. We're not changing God. You all know that God does not change. We're changing ourselves. So therefore, through the tefillah of Yitzchak Avinu, it wasn't coincidental that Rivkha is arriving now at the Eved. It could have been that he had Ruach HaKodesh and he's praying, and here it is. She shows up with the 10 camels, with the Eved, and the timing is perfect. He's at the intersection where a great revelation happened to Hagar, is now happening to him. He's getting an answer from God, and now the building of the house. Do you know, when Chazal talked about in the Gemara Masechet Brachot, that the prayers correspond to the patriarchs praying. And the Gemara says, who enacted Tfilat Mincha? Yitzchak Avinu. It says, Lasuach Basadeh. He was praying to God when? Lifnot Erev. When is Lifnot Erev? In the afternoon hours. You're in the middle of your busy day. In the day hours, you have the tumult, the traveling, getting to work, coming back from work. You have the grocery list on you. You need a Yitzchak Avinu that can say time out from my busy day at work, from my traveling, and now get all foreign ideas out of my mind. Rav Kook explains this idea. Yitzchak, who is such a holy individual, who had so much fear of God, he doesn't have a problem leaving agricultural work and going out and now taking everything out of his mind and only thinking of godliness. Yitzchak is the one able to enact an afternoon prayer amidst the busyness of his day, amidst the difficulties that he has in life. That is a Yitzchak Avinu. And therefore, he's the one that can come close to Hashem. And he's the one that we learn about his greatness. But remember, his greatness is the fear of God. He is the pillar of prayer, the pillar of korbanot that he has. We'll continue with this point maybe another time. Shakoach. Have a great day, gentlemen. Let's now